Raptor Ruckus is a Jurassic Park-inspired tabletop RPG designed by Frank Tedeschi, Raymond Lillard, Zach Goins, and Zach Allen. The idea here was to combine the fast and deadly rules of Mork Borg with the setting and the vibes of Jurassic Park. Honestly, I'm surprised no one did this sooner. The last rules-light dino RPG that I played was Escape from Dino Island by Sam Tung and Sam Roberts, and it has always been one of my all-time favorite games, but over the years, I sort of forgot the fact that I had been waiting on the Sams to put out a sequel or major expansion to that game. So when these guys announced Raptor Ruckus, my hopes for some fast dino action were restored. But I have to say, I proceeded with great caution. Mork Borg spin-offs are a dime a dozen these days, and you never know if you're going to get something that is well conceived and play tested. In this video, I want to walk you through the free quick start for Raptor Ruckus, which contains some pretty interesting and meaningful rules innovations. Then I want to show you some of the 3D printable dinosaur models that this campaign will include. And then finally, I want to share with you my takeaways from a session that I played with two of the game's creators. The game is crowdfunding on Kickstarter at the time of recording. I'll leave a link down below. So if you're not familiar with the Mork Borg rules framework, I covered it on this channel years ago, around when the game first came out. In a nutshell, it's a roll over d20 system that uses 4 core stats that modify that roll. But right off the bat, there's a huge innovation to that rule set found in this dino game that I found really intriguing. You have a 5th core stat in this game called Survival, and it actually does triple duty. First and foremost, it acts as a meta currency. You can spend survival points to do the following things, and you replenish those temporary points by resting 1 point per short rest and back to your maximum with an overnight rest. But check this out, every night that you manage to survive in this game, which is in and of itself sort of an accomplishment, your maximum survival goes up by 1 to a limit of 6. At any point in the game, if you have 3 or more survival points, you can permanently burn them to level up, and the choice of how you level up is fairly generous. It's generous because you're probably not going to live that long, but yeah, that means that survival points are both a meta currency and your XP. But there's actually a third function of survival, and that is as a roll modifier, just like the other 4 stats. If the GM needs you to roll a test that has to do with survival, but it can't quite fit into any of the other core attributes, you'd roll a d20 and add your current number of survival points to that roll as the modifier. So yeah, survival points are doing a lot of heavy lifting, but in an elegant way that I find pretty intuitive. One other special thing that you need to track is panic. By default, there are 5 panic boxes, and you gain panic pips at obvious points in the fiction where a PC might actually experience panic. Moments like encountering a meat-eating dinosaur or seeing a horrible mutilation of a cool dude who you just met named Trek, who is going to take you out on his huge yacht because you two sort of bonded over some crazy thing that happened earlier, but now he's being ripped to shreds, not 3 feet in front of you on this little motorboat that you two were about to escape on. That sort of thing. Once you have 2 pips of panic, you're more likely to roll a fumble, and once you fill up all the pips, you roll on this d6 panic result table. There's not much to say about the equipment in this game, or the gear, weapons, and consumables. Well, one notable feature that exhibited pretty elegant, almost simulationist design was the sedative dart. If you have a tranquilizer gun and manage to land a hit on a creature using one of these darts, you roll 3d10 against that creature's current HP, and if you meet or beat that HP value, the creature's turn options are limited to some degree. The most notable thing here is the fact that if your party can land multiple hits with these particular kinds of darts, the sedative score actually stacks. In this way, you can incapacitate creatures with really huge HP pools. Chaos is a surprisingly fun element of the game as well. Characters typically have very few chaos points to spend, but they can spend them at any time, even in the middle of combat when it's not their turn. And what it does is creates chaos. There are 3 chaos tables to choose from, and it's really up to the GM to choose which table to apply your results to, but it can have a totally scene-changing effect, which is a lot of fun. Some results are good for the players, and some are bad. Combat is largely the same as any Mork Borg game. fast and pretty deadly, with one major exception. In Raptor Ruckus, every dinosaur enemy has a tenacity value, and instead of just attacking and trying to whittle away hit points, you can engage in one of 4 so-called maneuvers in order to try and reduce the enemy's tenacity rating to the point that they have to roll each round or find themselves fleeing the encounter entirely. This is a big deal because even though it's inevitable sometimes to be facing dinosaurs head-on, you really want to have options besides combat, and this tenacity system gives you that. Anytime your character hits 0 HP, they roll on one of these gruesome broken tables, which usually puts the PC right on death's door. So there are all kinds of little extras going on with this particular crowdfund campaign, but the one thing that really jumps out at me as the most exciting personally is the 3D printable STL files. These were designed by Critical Crafting, which has done some great work in the RPG space. They've designed a number of dinos so far for this game, and I'm a big fan of printing and painting dinosaurs, so this was an instant back for me. I think maybe the most important thing to note here is the fact that one of the creators of the game, Zach Goins, mentioned to me that they are actively pursuing the creation of character sculpts that resemble early 90s Jurassic Park era characters. That would fill a huge gap in the tabletop 3D printing world, and I think would enhance the play experience of Raptor Ruckus all the more. Alright, so I got to play a session of Raptor Ruckus run by co-creator Zach Goins. Incidentally, Zach ran Pirate Borg for me in preparation for a review of that game. He's actually a part of the Pirate Borg team, and he's a great GM as well. But anyway, here are my takeaways from our session. Tenacity is an important alternative to combat. As I mentioned earlier, you can try one of 4 maneuvers against an enemy to reduce their morale, basically, instead of just trying to whittle down their HP. This adds a very significant dimension to gameplay because it encourages more creative problem solving and generally leads to more survivability. And really, this is the biggest example of how the game is more than just a reskin of Mork Borg. Chaos is potentially a lot of fun. It takes a certain level of risk-taking on the part of the player to spend a chaos point and throw caution to the wind, and maybe there could be an alternate rule that allows the GM to trigger a chaos roll instead. But the general effect of chaos happening at any time is a nice option to have. Turning a scene upside down in an instant can really supercharge the play experience. Survival points are fascinating. I don't think I've ever seen a meta currency that also acted as an XP system, let alone also as a rollable core attribute for tests. But from what I played, this triple mechanic actually works. Interestingly, you can play the pool in a couple different ways. If you want to build and improve your character for the long haul, you're going to want to spend those survival points to level up. But if you want to burn fast and hard and make crazy things happen in the moment, you can instead just get your max up to 6 and only use the temporary points. Dinosaurs rip you to shreds. Although the designers made sure that no one dinosaur attack is going to completely obliterate you every time with a single attack, you really can't afford to take more than 2 or 3 hits from one of these things. And that means you have to think about your environment, your gear, and everything else at your disposal. Otherwise, an encounter is going to be very short and finding you rolling up a new character before you know it. That's all I've got so far for Raptor Ruckus. I think a rules-light dino game like this one was a long time coming. I'm happy to see that it's being done by a team of design veterans who can actually elevate the rules of Mork Borg and who have the time and resources to playtest this game extensively. This game has been in development for several years actually, with a full year of extensive development, so that despite the window dressing like the trucker hat and the patch, and to some extent even the 3D printables that I happen to love, at its core, you're getting a vetted, playable game that you can play with the full confidence that all the little extra mechanics have been very well thought out. I'm just so relieved that after playing this game with Zach and Frank, I didn't find myself saying,
"That is one big pile of shit."
Thanks for watching. Links are below. I'll see you in the next one.